Hey everybody, and welcome to Scouting the League. And today we step back into the draft room with our friend and scout north of the border, Dane Vandernat. Dane, we're going to talk some O-line today. Three good players, teams more and more. Hey, if you can't get that real sexy athletic pick at the top of the draft, building the trenches, the O-line is certainly a part of that. But before we get into the draft room, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are getting ready for the playoffs. You guys have clinched a playoff spot. You got a big game this week to secure that number one seed. Got Ottawa Friday night. It's going to be an exciting week. Take me through what year one up in Hamilton, or not with Hamilton, since you're still back here with us in the States. But take us through your year with the CFL Hamilton Tiger Cats this year.
Yeah, it's been exciting. Obviously, to your point, Rodrik, it's always great to be on the winning side, and it's great to, be in a team that's already clinched the playoff spot. So, very excited about that. Obviously, ready for our game on Friday night against Ottawa. Should be an opportunity for us to clinch the number one seed in the East Division. So, hopefully, we take care of business and head into the playoffs in the right way. But this is really my first foray in the CFL, as you know, and it's really been a lot of fun. It's an exciting league. It's a fun game. Got great people all around in front offices and on the coaching staff. A lot of NFL people crossover. Our head coach was a former quarterback coach for the Colts and the Jaguars, and was asked to be the offensive coordinator in the Colts a few years back. And so a lot of NFL ties up there in the league, and really we get a lot of great players up there that had a nice little NFL career, or even vice versa. So it's been a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, again, you get it both ways. You get some of these guys that haven't quite made that NFL roster yet. Hey, bring them on up north and give them the chance to develop some more. Or hey, again, that back end guy who, hey, I had my cup of tea in the NFL and I just want to keep playing good football. And again, the CFL is certainly a spot for that. The Tiger Cats going to be exciting to see where they go. Again, a big one Friday night. Make sure you check out those Tiger Cats Friday night and maybe see Dane's fingerprints on that team in one way or another. Again, no coincidence they hired Dane, and all of a sudden they're sitting there with the number one seed, potentially heading into playoffs. So make sure you check it out. Always fun watching the CFL, and again, teams from across the league getting ready for that playoff run. But again, the reason we really got you on here today is, of course, to talk some O-line, stepping into the draft room. As always, you have opinions. Let Dane know. Let myself know. He is at D Vandernat on Twitter. I am at RightStepADV. Again, both of us been in the draft rooms. These are some of the most fun conversations you ever have. Again, you feel strongly about players you've been doing work on for, sometimes a year, 2 years. Again, with COVID, some of these guys maybe 3 years at this point. But again, we're getting through that. 3 offensive linemen we're going to talk about today. But again, make sure you go follow Dane, follow myself, hit us up, hit our home and host over at pro_FB_insiders as well. Like, subscribe, share this podcast and video wherever you're at, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube, of course. Get it out there as we head in. Let's get to it, Dane. Offensive lineman, again, really focusing on the tackles today. Let's start out, again, a team that had big expectations, stumbled against Texas Tech earlier this year, but still a good team. They always have big guys, offensive line, defensive line, the Utah Utes. We're talking about Spencer Fano, offensive tackle. He is a junior, I believe, is an underclassman, but again, has been a part of the draft conversations for a bit now. You're talking north of 6'6", 308. Played in 13 games in 23, started every game at right tackle in 24, has been a starter in 2025. What are your thoughts on Spencer Fano, Dane?
Yeah, he's really been a fun one to watch, I think, for a couple years now. As you said, he's a true junior. 24 career starts heading into 2025, 11 of them on the left side. But right now he's playing right tackle, really been a 2-year starter on the right side. It's a 4-star recruit coming out of Spanish Fork. He's got a brother on the football team, comes from an athletic family. So it's always nice as an NFL scout, as you know, Rodrik, going through, getting the profile, figuring out a little bit of the heritage sometimes, and really understanding what environment this guy grew up in. Overall, I like Spencer Fano. I gave him a second round grade, and I'd keep him at right tackle for the NFL. And the reason for that is, I think he's going to come under the desirable arm length, really for playing left tackle. He's got the feet to play left tackle. I like the athlete. I think he has a really nice profile. He does look more like a guard frame a little bit, and you do see some issues. You mentioned the Texas Tech game. I think you watched this last weekend against BYU. You see some of the longer edge defenders give him a little bit of fit, right? Just some of that issue. He is a little bit of a grabber in pass pro, right? He's not going to be a real tight puncher, a guy who's consistently playing with the length that he has. So because of that, I'm not going to move him back to the left side. I'm not going to, really throw him in that first round grade as a definite year one starter. As a second rounder, I expect this guy to come in, obviously make our 53, be pushing for playing time, and potentially be a starter by the end of the year, if not going into year two. So at any rate, for him, I really like the athlete. He's light on his feet. He's got good speed. You can see him burst when he's running out in space, getting out in the screen game, or even, pulling in the running game. It's kind of funny watching him because, they'll move him to the left side when they need it and they got a habit moment in short yardage situations. So they want to make sure they're running behind 55. And so they'll play him at either left tackle or kind of the jumbo tight end in a unbalanced set over there. And that just tells you, hey, look, the coaching staff, they like this player's physicality. They like this guy's play strength. They like his ability to move people in the run game. I think you see that physicality, that tenacity or aggression to finish. I think those are really strong points of his. So, as a weakness, I think he is hindered by a little bit of hip stiffness that restricts his ability to sink. But overall, I don't think it's really going to be too limiting. I think this player's still has a lot of upside. And I think, for me, again, I'd keep him on the right side as a pro. And I think that he's going to, still have some upside to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the athlete really jumped off the tape to me. This guy is, man, he's fun. When you see big guys get out in space and move around a little bit and do it fairly easily, looks like an athlete out there. Again, that always tells you something. I had some questions. Again, you mentioned the hip tightness, really the hips and hands together. I thought there were some times where, is it a core strength issue? Is it, again, you kind of go back to, hey, has this guy ever wrestled? Does he understand some hip leverage? Again, all of that can be taught and developed. He has all the physical tools. Dane, it used to be the mantra was, hey, my big athlete at left tackle protect the quarterback, my road grader run nasty right tackle. But the NFL has changed, and I have heard the philosophy go, hey, we've got to have two athletes at tackle to protect our quarterback. Does that sway you at all? Left tackle, right tackle? Does this guy fit that more traditional, hey, he's going to be all right, not only because he can play out there, but because he's going to be a physical run grader downhill guy that can open up things in the run game?
Yeah, and it's a great point that you make. He is on the leaner side. I think of all the guys, or the three guys especially we're going to talk about today, he's the lightest by listed weight. And, we don't have verified measurables on him. As we said, that he's an underclassman, so he didn't get measured in the spring. But, for me, you look at his build, I think, on tape, and you can see an athlete, right? You see a guy that's leaner, that's not real hippie, that doesn't really have, a ginormous, butt on him or anything like that. So I don't ever see him being a 330 or 330 plus pound pro. I think he's going to be in that 310, 315 probably when it's all said and done. And again, that's just, me playing, God here, watching film, right? Trying to guess what this player's upside is going to be without looking at him in person. But at any rate, because he's a little bit leaner in that regard, I don't see him ever truly bulking up as most NFL right tackles are going to look. But, I think you look at guys like Rashawn Slater, for instance, right? He's almost an enigma that was able to still play left tackle in spite of shorter arm length. With Spencer, if I had to guess, looking at his length on film, which is always something I'm trying to establish, especially if I don't have verifieds, you know, he looks to me like he's going to be in the 32 and a half, 32 3/4 inch arm length. Because of that, I don't see him being a great fit at left tackle, in spite of the fact that he is a good foot athlete. So, for me, again, I'm going to by default. I agree with you. He's a hell of an athlete. He does have aggression. He has some run game value. And I mean, high end starting, solid starter, quality run game value. So for me, I think it's a natural. Keep him at right tackle. He's been playing it the last 2 years. Make it a third in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the blueprints out there again. You go back a few years. Brian Bulaga, again, longtime starter up in Green Bay, had all those arm length questions. When you talk about the athlete again, I'm not going to put him in the conversation of Lane Johnson, but again, when he was drafted, has the length that again Spencer may not have, but that was always the expectation. Hey, he's going to play right, and then we're going to move him over to left. Well, how about you just have a Pro Bowl and future Hall of Famer starting at right tackle for about 15 years? Yeah, I think most teams will take that all day. Again, you think modern day NFL, what Jake Matthews has done. Again, never the highest end left tackle in the NFL, but I think they 150 some straight starts for the Atlanta Falcons. Again, is always going to do it at a high level. If you can get a starter like that again in the second round, which I think that's a great spot for Spencer. Again, tests well, interviews well. Maybe you see him slide into that end of the day one. Again, if anything pops up through the process, maybe a little slide the other way. But again, a day two or a second round on day two grades is a great spot to go. Let's keep going down then. Let's go across the country. Let's head down to Florida, team that has a few question marks now. They've maybe underachieved a little bit this year, but still have plenty of NFL talent. Austin Barber, redshirt senior, a guy that I know I did some work on last year. Teams have probably done close to 2 years of work on this player just as a redshirt senior. Again, could have come out last year and no one would have been surprised, but you're talking 6'0", 316. Again, takes a red shirt in 21, back up in 22, does make some starts there, was a left tackle across 8 games in 23 before becoming a starter in 24, and of course, starter in 25. What are your thoughts on Austin Barber down in Florida?
Yeah, for me, I watched the LSU, Miami, and Texas A&M games this year. I think that this young man, really has that prototypical NFL tackle size. His arms are still going to come a little bit short of the mark, yet I think he's going to be longer than Fano. I've got 33.5-inch arms on him. So for me, hey, look, it's maybe less than ideal, but it's sufficient to play offensive tackle in the NFL. Now, unlike, Spencer, I would move this player's position. As you said, he's playing left tackle again now at Florida, and I think he's going to be a better NFL fit at right tackle. Now, my only reluctance in saying that here, Rodrik, is that this is a former basketball player over at Trinity Christian, and I think this kid, you see his basketball feet on the football field. I think, arguably his best trait as an NFL pro is that he's a true dancing bear out there, good foot athlete, light on his feet, stays on his feet. He's got good quickness, in pass sets, range and pass pro to gain depth. He can pull in the run game and get out on screens. So, I really think that his athleticism and his overall quickness are really big strong points of his game. He also flips his hips smoothly despite a little bit of stiffness, but I don't see too many issues recovering, but I did see a couple, right? For instance, that LSU game, and LSU's got some good pass rushers. He held up very well against LSU. You throw on the Miami tape, they had a little bit more lateral quickness kind of coming his way, and you did see him stressed a little bit more. So again, I would move him from left tackle to right tackle. I gave him a third-round value as a developmental starter. I think he needs to get stronger and play with a little bit more consistency. But, really opposed or comparing him or contrasting him with Spencer, I did think he used his extension better than Fano did, right? I thought Fano is a little bit more grabber, wants to grab you, latch on. He's got the strength to really work it up top. Whereas I think with Barber, I think he's a little bit more wants to keep his back out of there. I remember Tony, Sperano, when he was our O-line coach at the Raiders, always telling the guys, keep your back out, keep your back out. And I think that Austin does a naturally good job of doing that. I really liked his awareness. I thought he blocked physically well. I thought he, competed well and gave good effort through it. His pad level was just a little bit high. And then I just thought that, hey, look, you know what? You like to see guys be able to roll their hips in the run game, right? And kind of come off low and drive their feet and be able to, snap on contact. This is where I think he kind of struggles a little bit, right? He doesn't have that natural snap and ability to access his lower power base. And I think that's where, that average play strength is really going to kind of come on in. You also see a little bit of a lack of stymieing power with his hands, I think, when he punches. But, again, still talking about a high-end player as far as a third-round offensive tackle. I see him being a good tester. He's been a multi-year starter in the SEC, and this guy's played a lot of good football. I think he's got a lot more good football ahead of him.
Yeah. Again, the word you used, which again showed up a couple times for me, is that consistency. This is a guy that you put on snaps, and I mean, you're like, yeah, this is top half of the first round type of talent, and he puts stuff on tape like, hey, that's really impressive. Not a lot of guys can do that, but then you'll roll through maybe a series or a quarter, and you're like, okay, he's slipping a lot. Again, I saw a lot of times where, again, maybe you're just getting a little bit outside of that cylinder, again, losing his power angles and slipping, which again, you go back like, well, he still has the athletic ability to recover, which again, so which one is it? So what do you want to do with this kid? It becomes the question of philosophy in a lot of ways. Cause again, there are NFL teams like, hey, if he's put it on tape, that means he can do it. And that's where we're going to grade on the upside. And then there's teams like, hey, this kid has been a consistent starter, and yet he's still having these issues. Again, is that who he's always going to be? I think of a guy like Christian Darrisaw coming out of Virginia Tech, who had some of the wildest swings on his snaps, almost from play to play, where he would dominate the best in the country. And there were times where he looked like he didn't want to be on the football field with the way he would kind of get beat up on the edges. And yet he's turned into a pretty consistent starter for the Vikings when he's been healthy. And so I think with Austin, again, the third round grade, it's going to be an interesting spot to put in, because I think you're going to have some pretty wide ranging grades, both from scouting staffs and across the league, based on whether they like this kid's character and the upside of that character. Because again, if you want to talk about the tape tells you what he can do, the character tells you how high he can go, how good a player he can be. Hey, could this guy be a end of the first round type talent, one of those first picks of the second day, just because all the traits are there? Or is he we don't like him that high, we do have concerns, hey, he's never going to be better than what he was with a good coaching staff at Florida, a lot of starts in the SEC. Again, I think you're going to have some first to third round range on this kid. I think that second to third, again, you don't want to stick him in right away and be like, hey, you've got to go do it from day one. Not that you want to necessarily do that for every rookie, but again, he's going to have some growing pains there, moving him from left to right, give him a little bit of time there. So you said a third round pick. Do you think this kid, again, you've got Coach Napier out, you've got a Florida team that's going to have questions down the stretch. Does this kid have a chance to help himself during the rest of the year? Is his tape done and teams are just like, hey, we just got to get to the offseason and interview this kid? What do you see this kid needing to do to move himself up in that solid second round conversation?
Yeah, well, I mean, like we always talk about, Rodrik, it's that consistency factor, right? It's one thing to flash it in college. In the NFL, you got to do it every snap, because guess what? That edge defender's coming for your quarterback every play. And when I'm paying my quarterback $50+ million a year, I don't need him getting hit any more than absolute necessary. So, for me, I absolutely think Austin's got a lot to play for. I think especially now, the adversity they're going to face after having let go of Coach Napier, I think now's the time to show, hey, look, I am a pro. I have a pro mentality. I can improve. My consistency is going to get better. Teams may be gunning for us even harder. And my teammates may be up and down. So I need to show that I can fight through all this adversity, that I can be a level-headed player, and that I can, show up on a game in, game out basis and be a pro. So I absolutely think that, if he can be a steady presence out there for DJ Lagway and whomever else is going to be lining up, next to him for the remainder of the season, I think that'll go a long way in speaking positively for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Fun stretch for him as the competition doesn't get any easier with that SEC schedule. So we'll see where he ends up. And again, we talked about flashes for this kid and for Austin and our last one, Isaiah World. He's now playing at Oregon, a redshirt senior, but has spent time at Nevada. Again, 4 years there, redshirted at Nevada 2021, started 10 games in 2022, 12 in 23, and 13 in 24. Again, as the transfer portal does these days, Oregon signed him as a free agent 2025 this year, playing good football for them out there. You're talking a big guy listed at 6'8", 318. Do you have verifieds on him, Dane?
Yeah, I've got him at 605 to 321 with
a little bit
34 and a
inflated
half
there.
inch arms. Yeah.
Yeah, but a long guy. How you said 34 and a half arms?
Correct.
So you're talking that excellent range, if not better than that. What were your thoughts on Isaiah World out at Oregon now?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a 35 career start player before this season, right? So as you said, they signed him in free agency. I like that terminology there, Rodrik. Former 3-star recruit coming out of San Diego. This guy has the NFL size that teams are going to be coveting, right? Not many people are born 605'2", 321, 34 and a half inch arms, or as we say in the NFL, they're not growing on trees, right?
No.
So, for me, this guy right off the bat has prototypical size. He has the experience that we want, having been a multi-year starter, right? 35 career starts. You anticipate by the time this season ends, hopefully he can stay healthy. We're talking about a player with north of 47 career starts at offensive tackle. For me, I don't think he's going to be a left tackle in the NFL. I hate to say it. I started out watching his Oklahoma State, then watched the Penn State, and then finally the Indiana games for Oregon. You can't help and compare this guy with Josh Connerly, who they just had drafted this past year, who, has similar size, but was really an elite athlete. And I think, for Isaiah, he's going to come up just short of that, which likely is why he was, a 3-star instead of a 4 or 5 coming out of high school. And, why this player spent, time over there in the Mountain West, really starting out. But along with that great physical stature, I think this player plays physical, right? He's a road grader. He's a physical run blocker. He's unafraid to stick his face in there. I think he's got good play strength to really steer and torque guys in the run game. And then he's got that length for pass pro and can play with extension. So it's one thing to be a shorter arm guy playing with extension. It's another thing to be a longer arm guy and playing with extension. So that length can really give pass rushers, especially when we're talking about translating these skill sets to the NFL, that length can really be an aid and buy your quarterback a couple extra seconds, when he's needing to get that ball out. So at any rate, I like his overall awareness, his effort. Where I'm going to knock him is just going to be that I think he's got a little bit of stiffness and some rigidity in his hips that are restrictive, and again are going to prohibit him from playing left tackle in the NFL. Overall, I think he's a bit of a waist bender. I think he struggles to sink his hips and really drop his weight and anchor in pass pro. Because of that also leads to a lack or really some marginal short area quickness. I think sometimes you see him needing to read and react and adjust in, those phone booth type situations. And I just think that, he struggles to do that. And you watch his game, he's one of those guys that looks stressed all the time, right? Some tackles, you sit there and watch, Spencer Fano, you sit there and watch Austin Barber, man, they never look like they're getting stressed. Right. This guy looks like, man, he's giving it his all and, just getting away with it. So again, because of that, I see him as a late day 3 pick, a 6th, 7th rounder, really due to that just prototypical size and experience. I see him, kicking inside the guard, excuse me, if not playing right tackle for the NFL. So, to me, he's going to be that swing player potentially if he develops, maybe on a practice squad as a rookie. And then maybe a guy that's going to be your third offensive tackle or, your third offensive guard. Give yourself a little bit of versatility and roster value as that seventh, eighth offensive lineman.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, these guys don't grow on trees. There's a lot to like with him. This is one of those guys that it's changed now with the portal. You used to see it maybe with first year starters or with old graduate transfers that went up in level. This guy looks like a guy that, with all that length, it was pretty easy at Nevada a lot of times. Like, again, I can just get my hands out there and run these guys around, and so from the week 1 to week 12 growth at Oregon is going to be, I think, a really interesting study for NFL scouts, because has he improved it? Is he taking the steps, seeing really elite rushers every week, guys that, like you said, have that ability to change direction inside outside? And again, you want to see that stress level come down a little bit. Again, guys that make it look easy, that are in, even the best of them are going to recover it sometimes, but you don't want to make a living doing that, which, again, like you said, that's kind of the way his game has been this year. But you talked about all the upside, a guy that's very aggressive. Again, you could almost say, hey, we just need to make a block. We just need to get in the way here. You don't have to try to decleat this guy coming off the edge and make an effective block. Makes that aggressiveness in at guard. You like that temperament, that mentality at right or guard. Again, this is one of those guys. At worst, you've got your 4-spot backup. And again, maybe teach him to snap and you've got a 5-position backup. With new rules, you don't have to do that. But again, 4-position backup, and hey, keeps ascending. He looks different from week 1 to week 12 at Oregon. All of a sudden you've got, hey, we may have a starter here. Again, I think this guy, just by nature of the position, the way it's been drafted and the measurements, I have a hard time seeing this guy get passed around that 5th round grade, just because, again, somebody's going to take a chance on, hey, this guy could end up being a starter for us for a long time. Thin offensive line room. Again, maybe a position as a whole that's going to be good this year. But again, these guys just don't grow on trees, and it's going to be a good one. But again, he's day 3, solid day 3 pick, full draft pick. Doesn't make it off that 53, because as soon as he does, somebody else is going to claim him. So he's going to be on that roster, whether you see him or not, jumbo package or whatever else. Good player. Again, Oregon does a good job going out and replacing Connerly, and finds that player in free agency, which, again, we can call it what we want, transfer portal or otherwise. That's what it is these days. And again, it's not about finding and signing them. It's finding and signing the right ones, which, again, the better teams in the country are signing the right ones. So, Dane, great job. If you agree with Dane, let him know. He is at D Vandernat on X. Check the show notes for that. If you disagree, let him know as well. Respectfully, as we always say on here, you can have a draft room conversation. Again, one of my favorite things was having some good back and forth on players that, again, maybe a round, maybe 2, maybe 3 round differences with scouts. But again, saying what you saw on film. Maybe it's time to throw up some film, go back and watch these games. Dane, fantastic job. Good luck this week with Hamilton. Rooting for you, rooting for everything. Always appreciate having you in the draft room.
No, man, appreciate it, Rodrik, as always, man. And looking forward to getting back and watching some more tape here and figuring out this class of 2026, man.
Yeah, well, we are 7, 8 weeks into it at this point. Again, some of these guys are starting to have that fall film grade kind of wrapped up. Still plenty of late tape to watch. Bowl games, top competition, rivalry games. Always got to watch that rivalry game. But Dane's going to keep watching. I'm going to keep watching. And it's more than just watching. If we were talking about it here, we're going to keep scouting.